All right. Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Life Maximizer Academy. Today, I have a new friend of mine, Phil Gomez, and I ended up meeting Phil through another mutual friend that we have. And one of the reasons I'm really excited about this conversation is because Phil is wanting to do some incredible transformative work with Black men and Black fathers. And as someone who just falls on one side of that community, this is near and dear to my heart because I don't really see a lot of resources available for Black men that allow them the space to talk about their experience and unpack their experience and be in community with one another. So Phil, I'm really honored to have you here with me.
Thank you so much, Donnie. It's a pleasure to be here. That first conversation that we had, there's just something in your voice, man. You're a very inspiring man, and I love the things that you're up to. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where this conversation goes today.
You and me both. You and me both. All right. So, first question before we dive into the content, just tell everybody a little bit about who you are, where you are, and some of the work that you're doing today.
Beautiful. Yeah, so my name is Phil Gomez. As you said before, I currently reside in the Lake Tahoe area, Truckee, California, originally from New York. I am one of the founding fathers of the Rising Man movement, along with my bro, Jetty Azuma. And in that space, we are committed to working with men and committed to really exploring that question of what it is to be a man in today's society. And in exploring that question, really sharpening each other's swords so that we can show up as the best men possible in this world. Because as the climate of the world shows, there's been a big imbalance and a big confusion as far as what it is to be a man and what it is to show up as as a powerful, loving, caring man. So we do a bunch of different programs that are focused around that question, around that vision. And more recently, in talking with my bro Jetty, I've been really focused on providing support for fathers and really helping dads navigate the difficulties of fatherhood, because it is a deep belief of mine that the family unit is the strongest force in the universe. And in order to have strong families, we need to have strong fathers. And again, which you mentioned before, the other thing I've been focusing on is how do we get more men of color in these spaces? Because as you were sharing, there's some good medicine here, that we can really use, and that support and that brotherhood is going to enable us to really heal in a good way, and which is, healed people heal people. So it's going to allow for that just continuous movement forward there. So that's what I'm about, man.
I love it. I love it. There are a couple of things that you said that I wanna dive into. And and the first piece of it is around healing. I believe healing is such an important part of the equation, but I don't think it's the only part of the equation. And I think sometimes it can be easy to get caught up in the healing. So you do all this healing work and you're just going around in circles and circles and circles, and things get better, but there ends up never being anything that you move toward beyond the healing piece. And I think that piece is really important. So like I think about it as you're wandering through a path and you have this place where you stop for respite and you do some healing there, and then you continue on your path to this new destination. So I would love to know a little bit about what you see as the new destination after people begin doing some of the healing work.
Absolutely. I think that's such a good point. Like many things, something that's good for us can end up being a distraction, right? Or, I always think about it like a mouse view versus a hawk view, right? So we
Yeah.
can get in this space where we're so focused on the healing, really zooming in, that we lose the big picture and the vision. So, I think it's So it's a deep belief of mine that each one of us has a very specific tool set, strengths that are going to enable us to make some sort of impact on this world. And the world could be our nuclear family, our larger family, our community, our state. That circle can be as big or small as it needs to be. But I think in order to like fully tap into our gifts, there are certain stories that we have to let go of, and I think that's where, at least for me, that's where the healing has been. And there's word decolonization that I use a lot, and I see being used a lot. And I think really that stripping away of stories that aren't actually ours, that are really kind of covering these strengths and gifts that we have. um, if we don't strip those away, then we can't tap into them. And if we can't tap into them, then we can't have this bigger impact. So for me, I think it's different for every single person, And so in my case, what I really see that my gift is helping men become better men and become more aware of the impact that they have on everyone that's around them. So if I kind of believe in my BS story that I have to be small or keep my voice to myself, or be a nice guy, then that's going to limit me from giving that gift. And that's going to be a disservice not only to myself, but everyone around me.
Yeah, I love it. I have a mentor of mine who she does somatic work, and she's helping me integrate more somatic practices, both into my personal life, but also into my body of work. And one of the ways she talks about it is thinking about each of us as a cell in this huge body or ecosystem. And one of the things she said recently was, if your cell is unhealthy, then there are going to be some other unhealthy cells that are around you, and then the system is going to be unhealthy. And when I started thinking about that, about my individual role as a Black man, as a queer man, just a human being in a much bigger ecosystem, I realized, oh, part of the work that I'm doing right now is helping me take care of my own cell body and make it healthier, make it more energizing. And as I think about that, it has a huge ripple effect. But if I think about that in the context of more Black men come, or more men of color in general, coming together to do that kind of work, it ends up creating this whole new ecosystem for ourselves, for future generations to come, for the little ones that are around now. And it's a really just inspiring thing to see, because I feel like we're just at the beginning of it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the pieces and the stories that you talked about that you're disrupting is what it means to be a caring, kind, nurturing man, when so much of so much of the narrative is around, you got to be strong, no pain, no gain, suck it
Yeah.
up,
Yep.
don't let us. And so disrupting that, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but sometimes I find myself in a tug of war as I'm deconstructing that narrative and trying to find this new narrative, because it's like, all right, but I am naturally loving and nurturing, and that's what I want to do. And most of my programming has been, don't do that. And
Mm-hmm.
so how has that process been for you? And also, how are you working other men through that process?
Mm. That's really beautiful question. So, and I guess for starting with my personal story, it came to a point in my life where I realized that I was the my outward being, my thoughts, actions, what I would say were solely based around making other people feel comfortable. Like, so I
Mm,
was so disconnected from what was true for me, because it was more important to me to fit in, or to look good, or to whatever it is, make this person feel good, even if it meant going against something that I believed in. And there's many reasons for that. I think I won't go too deep into it, but I think, the biggest thing is like I'm biracial. My mom's African ancestry. My dad is Colombian, and I grew up in we moved to a super white neighborhood growing up. So there was like, I was always just moving in different communities. So I was always like molding. And I think there's a beauty and a strength to that as well. However, that disconnection from what is true for me, my personal truth, my personal virtues, was very damaging, in the sense that I was just portraying what I thought I was supposed to be. And what I thought I was supposed to be came not only from, my surrounding communities, but, TV and media and music and all this. So I was, I was just very disconnected, and so much to the point, the question of like, what do you like or what do you want to do is like this existential, like, I don't know, and it's crazy. It's like the simplest question ever, man. So
I have a
I've just
choice.
been in the process of really naming the things that aren't mine, right? And coming to a conclusion of like, all right, so for me, what does it mean to be a good man? Because I identify with being a man, and it's like, what does it mean to be a good man? And there are some things that are in alignment with what I've been fed. I think there's an element of being the lighthouse, right? Element of being able to suck it up at times when things are difficult, to persevere in that sense. And I've also adopted, being nurturing and loving and sweet and gentle, and really have been searching what that balance is for me. So in working with other men, the most important thing is to create your own standard. Because if you create your standard, then your brothers can help hold you to your standard. Like once you're being held to a standard that's not yours, that it's like, one, it's not authentic, and two, it's just going to lead to resentment and just frustration. And I think that's a lot of what's going on. So even if your standard ends up being like Clint Eastwood, that archetype, like at
Yep.
least you're choosing it for yourself, and then you could be that. But you don't have to be Clint Eastwood in order to be a man, and in order
Yeah.
to be a good man.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. One of the things that I've done for myself over, let's say, the past couple of months is I started going back to see a therapist. And for a while I resisted it. And I realize it's probably one of the best decisions that I've made. And I think the the therapy modality, along with coaching and other healing modalities, it's working for me. One of the things that I have just seen in my experience, let's say probably over the past 15 years, is we have a we have a weird relationship to mental health in the Black community, and I know in other communities of color of, oh, you can't talk about that. Why are you depressed? Pray about it. Do all these things. Like, but those paradigms don't always work for people, or those practices or tools don't always work for people. And so I think part of what's happening now is that there's this breaking open of, all right, we need some new tools and resources, and we need to look at these other tools and resources that have been established and that have helped people, and how do we get into a better relationship with them where we don't have to be ashamed about going to therapy. We don't have to be ashamed about talking about mental health or depression or anxiety. And I think there's such beauty in men having a space that they can go to say, hey, man, I'm struggling. I need some help. I need to unravel a little bit. And I need to know that you all aren't going to judge me. Or if you are judging me, then at least we're doing it in this container where I'm safe. And that, and I was just telling my therapist the other day of, most most Black men don't have a place that they can go to unravel. They don't have a place that they can go to express anger or rage and have it be held as sacred, versus being held as this detrimental, terrifying thing. And that ends up, in a lot of ways, dehumanizing us, because anger and rage and resentment are human emotions. They aren't just Black emotions, or they just aren't Latino emotions. They're human emotion. And I would love to hear a little bit about maybe the types of things you all talk about when you're walking people through your program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I definitely agree. It's like we don't have where is our space, you know, for us as Black men of color to come to. And you know, one of the first things that we do in most of our programs is this exercise, if you really knew me. And in this exercise, you know, it is an opportunity to, and it's like literally like the first thing we do after like, hey, welcome to da 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 program. It's like, okay, we're gonna do this exercise if you really knew me. So in this exercise, you are stating, if you really knew me, you would know. And then you're stating one thing that like either no one knows about you or very, very few people know about you. Usually it's something that you hold shame around, right? Or something that, yeah, that really is just like close to your heart. And most guys at first are like, holy shit. And usually I'll go first, or whoever's co-facilitating with me will go first, just to be like, this is how deep we can get. And the container can hold whatever it needs to. So like, let's go there. And what ends up happening is guys end up sharing these things that are like, you know, whatever. You know, when I was younger, I touched a woman inappropriately. I was, you know, I was sexually assaulted when I was a kid. I cheated on my wife, you know, things like this. And what ends up happening is by the end of it, everyone's like, whoa, me too, you know,
Mhm.
wow. And then there's this medicine of relatability that comes up, and it's like, damn, I am not the only one. And I have all these people around me that are carrying a similar weight on their shoulders. So that makes my load a little bit lighter. Like, I'm not crazy. I'm not unique in a certain way. This
Mhm.
is, you know, this is just this is part of my journey, and there's other people with it. And if I never shared that thing, I could never be like, hey, so what was it like for you? And even that little question there, getting out of your own head, just allows for that load to be lighter and lighter and lighter. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's an element of like stepping into that depth, right, of vulnerability, and then there's also the element of being able to laugh. You know, like there's I was telling you at the top of this that I just finished up a 10-week program that I have for dads called Dads on Purpose, and one of the biggest, most powerful things that came from that was the guys are like, I get to laugh at I got 2 hours of sleep last night. You know, I get to laugh at, you know, my wife was giving me a hard time for XYZ, you know, so that element of lightness is just as important. But it's hard to share or be authentically light if you're not going to that depth as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I call it the shame rug, and it's like all the things that I sweep under or have swept under because it's like I don't want to look at that. I can't I can't do that. I don't have the capacity to do that. And one of the things that I love about the if you knew me exercise is, one, it's liberating because you get to lift the rug up, and two, there's something there's something about owning that piece of you or that part of your history or that part of your experience that, although it's uncomfortable and it can be difficult, you can then at least make a new decision from it. And when I think about what you're wanting to do around redefining what it means to be a good man, like you're helping these men step into new choice of,
Mm,
yeah, I'm not sure I want to do that anymore, or I'm not proud of that, and here's why, here's how I want to move forward. So I think shame can be beautiful and sacred, and I also think there's a toxic side of shame. And so for me, you're playing around with that idea of, okay, it's been toxic shame because I haven't owned it, but it can be healthy shame in terms of it's now helping me make a new decision about who I want to be and where I want to go. And um, when I think about redemptive love, like
mm,
that for me is an example of redemptive love.
mm. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, I mean, all aspects of ourself, whether it's things we deem good or bad, make us who we are, you know. And we're each and every one of us is beautiful and unique, and you wouldn't be you if it wasn't for those things that you're shameful of. So I think that that idea of really learning to love those parts of yourself, and you know, even in the recognition of it's not something I'm proud of, or if I could go back, I would change it. Like that's okay, and that's part of learning, right?
Yeah.
And but when we are constantly trying to separate ourselves from those parts, it becomes like target fixation. Like all we can think about is that thing that we don't want to do, and we can't think about the forward vision that we're that we're moving towards, or that we want to move towards deeply. So, you know, in that accepting and bringing that, you know, bringing that dark side in, you become a more complete human, right? And in sharing that, you can help someone else that's like going through that shame cycle. You know, like if you, it's always, the medicine is always in the wound, man,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah. Will you talk a little bit more about Dads on Purpose and some of the other programs? If people wanted to do some work with you, how could they do that?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. You know, all of our stuff lives on the Rising Man website. And so Dads on Purpose specifically is it's a 10-week program that's really geared towards helping fathers navigate the difficulty of fatherhood. And in that, really owning our passions as dads and intentionally choosing what we want to pass on to the next generations. So it's really this it's a 10-week experience that's really guided towards how can I d- setting the standard. What is the dad that I want to be? Okay, now that I've set the standard, how do I become that dad? How what are the things that I need to do? And you know, it has to do with fatherhood, also has a lot to do with partnership, because it gets difficult, man. It everything changes when you have kids. So it's really geared towards that. It's really a beautiful space for most of the guys. It's the first time they step into a circle where it's all dads and all talking about fatherhood. You know, some guys have done men's work in the past, but if it's not another dad, like this dude can't relate to what it's like to go through have 2 hours of sleep, wake up, get ready for work, come home, and then support your wife because she's like had a very tough day. Like he doesn't know anything about that. And like, yeah, he can hold space for you and sit there, but like there, that level of relation isn't there. So there's a super beautiful aspect that comes from that camaraderie. So that's on purpose. And then there's a Rites of Passage program that we do. This is I'm talking about because it's my favorite thing that we do. Traditionally, Rites of Passage for men have been the to mark from that transition from boyhood to manhood. This has been seen in all cultures across the world. Wherever you go on the globe, there was some sort of ceremony that happened in order to mark that transition into manhood. And women get their moon, and they have this like biological transition. We don't have that, so we create it for ourselves. um, so we don't have anything in our society now, right? Besides like
Mhm.
maybe the first time you get drunk, the first time
Yeah.
you have sex, you know,
Yeah.
maybe in a frat or a gang or something along those lines. Like we don't have anything that's really like, okay, now you're a man. So um, in taking from a lot of things that have occurred in the past, we created this program Compass that the culmination of it is a 4-day solo nature fast. And in those 4 days, by in solitude, you're able to strip away all of the distractions, all the things that we constantly distract ourselves with, including food. And you get to really, for me, it's like the number one way to find what's truly inside, what's like at the core when you strip everything away. Who is the true you, right? And who is the true man that you're now committed to being? Because it's really a rites of passage. It's like marking a line in the stand. And I started as this man, I step over, and now I'm claiming this is who I am, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, so that one's really dope. I absolutely love doing it. And there's like 2 months on the front end, 2 months on the back end, as far as like prepping and then integrating, because it's you change, but the world that you're coming back to don't change. So it's really learning how to carry this new self and be that way in the world.
Uh, Beautiful, man. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. My I have two more questions for you. The first question is, um, what is your wish or your new dream for men and or fathers? And what is your new wish or dream for men of color?
Mm. Hmm. My wish for men is to really understand that power doesn't equal force, and that we are all incredibly powerful, and that can be expressed in many different ways. My other wish for all men is that the service is the number one virtue, and that when we open our eyes to the possibility of how can I be of service in each and every moment, you'll be more fulfilled than having all the money in the world. So those two things, power is not force, and service first. Um, Man, when it comes to men of color, my wish for men of color is that there's is to not feel threatened constantly, not feel threatened by society, not feel threatened by each other, not feel threatened by our partners. I think, at least in my experience of a man, as being a man of color, I'm like constantly on edge, or like scoping out the situation, or like, can I trust this? What do they want from me?
Mhm.
So to being able to, my wish is to put that guard down, because like once that guard's down, like just possibility opens up. I was talking to my um, to my wife the other day, who's a white woman, and we have a lot of conversations about race, and we have kids, and it's an important thing to talk about. Um, and we were talking about privilege. We were talking about white
Mhm.
men, and different white men that we knew, and there's a certain confidence that white men have, because they're either not threatened, or they're very rarely told no. So
Yeah.
in the sense of not being able to told no, like they don't ask for an apple, they ask for the whole orchard, you know?
Yeah.
And I really wish that we could have that same audacity in a way, you know? Really ask for what
I
we
love this. I love it. Love it. For two reasons. A lot of the nervous system work that I'm doing now and wanting to do more of with people is really around finding flow in the nervous system so that we're not in hypervigilance all the time.
Mm,
Because I think for a lot of men of color, we just live in hypervigilance, like you said. It's like, okay, I gotta watch out. I'm going into this new place. I gotta watch out. And it's one of the things that I find myself doing is playing around with the question of, instead of like, how can I look for safety, is like, how can I look for enjoyment, or what
mm,
does enjoyment look like in this situation? And I
mm,
have to play around with both, because I still have that that programming, but it's at least giving me um, opportunities to like just live my life and enjoy my life, and I feel like I have to be on defense all the time. The other piece, I joke around with a lot of my friends about what what can I actually learn from white men? straight white men in particular, because you're right, there is a level of just directness and clarity and being unapologetic, and that is a skill. It's a skill, it's part of the privilege, and it's also a gift. And I'm finding that as I play around with it, it's really giving me an invitation to ask more for what I want, or be more direct of, hey, I want this, or I need this. And not I want or I need from a place of disrespect, but I want and I need from a place of abundance and, oh, there's something here for me too. And all right, if they can ask for that as a human being, then I can ask for that as a human being too. And it's edgy. I'm like, oh, this feels uncomfortable. And because it's edgy, that's how I know that there's learning in it for me, and that there's a gift in it, and that I can continue to cultivate the muscle. Um, and so it's been a really fun exploration, because now I'm getting to see what it means to be more confident. I'm getting to see what it means to be more comfortable in my life, and more comfortable in different places. And I'm enjoying my life a lot more than I have before.
Mm. Donnie, that is so beautiful, man. Really giving yourself the permission to ask for what you want. You know, that's it's like until we do that, we can't create the life that we want, you know. And I think really beautiful distinction you made is like the place and where that asking is coming from, you know, because you can ask for what you want and ask for what you need without being entitled to it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I want, not I deserve this, you know. Those are very two different things, two different, you know, the context is completely different even if you were asking for the same outcome, right, or the same thing. And I think you know, there is absolutely a way for us to ask for what we want and need while still being caring and loving and thinking of the community over just ourselves.
Yeah, good. So the final question, if people want to get connected with you, where do they go?
Amazing. Thank you. The easiest way is on Instagram, Phil J. Gomez, at Phil J. Gomez. Shoot me a message there. You know, also I got my link tree there. That's got all the, you know, all the programs that we are talking about here today. But yeah, just shoot me a message. I love being in my DMs and all the amazing conversations that stem from there. So I would say that's the easiest way. I'm a very reachable and approachable man. So shoot me a message there.
Awesome. Man, I am so glad we got to have this conversation. And again, I love the work that you're doing. You truly embody like the work that you're sharing with other people. And so just being with you and being able to have this conversation and feeling your positivity and optimism is incredibly infectious. So thank you for being you, for showing up, for doing this kind of work.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'm looking forward to being in touch with you soon.
Thank you, Donnie. Really, really appreciate you having me on here. Appreciate the two conversations we've had now. You are an amazing man. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And I'm looking forward to many more conversations together.
Likewise. Likewise. See you later, everybody.